The Nintendo Switch had an absolutely incredible year in 2022. In my opinion, it was its best year yet. Now, I know some people might say 2017, 2019, those are all great years, folks, but 2022 was an absolute banger if you are a fan of Nintendo and its franchises. So today, I wanted to rank every Nintendo published game that released this year, because I actually played them all with the exception of one, and I thought it'd be fun to just talk through each game, their pros and cons, and essentially do my Game of the Year list, because I more or less only played my Switch this year, so you can also consider this my personal Game of the Year list. So let's get into it. Alright, so I've gone ahead and made a tier maker. I'll link this down in the description. This is every Nintendo published game from 2022 with the addition of Sparks of Hope, because I feel like that's close enough. Although it's Ubisoft, not Nintendo published, I wanted to count it anyway. Now, there are two games on this list I have not beaten. Sparks of Hope, which I played about 10 hours of, did not finish. I need to go back to that. I really enjoyed what I played of it. And Triangle Strategy, but I did not play Triangle Strategy. That I actually forgot about that one until I was making this list. So both games I need to go back and finish, especially Triangle Strategy. I played the demo, and it seemed the demo was weird because they were trying to throw me in like really quick. I wasn't a huge fan of that, but I do want to go back and play it eventually because HD2D is awesome. Anyway, starting off, we're just gonna go in release order as I already kind of had it. Well, I guess not quite, because Xenoblade's at the end for some reason. But Pokemon Legends Arceus kicked off the year in January, and guys, this game is absolutely fantastic, and my feelings for it have only strengthened as time has passed, as we'll get to with Scarlet and Violet. Pokemon Legends Arceus is such a fresh breath of fresh air for the Pokemon franchise that going into Scarlet and Violet, it's even more needed again now than it was before, I think. Going from Legends Arceus, or going from Sword and Shield to Legends Arceus to Scarlet and Violet, there's a clear winner here, and that is Legends Arceus. The new catching mechanic should be standard in every Pokemon game. I know some people don't agree with that, but it absolutely, in my opinion, improves upon Pokemon in every feasible way. Adding quests, a quest board to Pokemon, having more reasons to catch Pokemon by doing those quests, and trading Pokemon with NPCs, and having that world kind of feel a little bit more lived in, all are things that I think make Pokemon Legends Arceus one of the best Pokemon games. The soundtrack is awesome. The world is awesome. The lore is awesome. The new Pokemon are awesome, and those new mechanics are awesome. The battle system is the one thing that I'm a little kind of torn on. I do wonder if maybe at some point Game Freak actually wanted to just go ahead and just release a catching-only game, and then at some point they were like, no, we have to add battles, because that's kind of what it feels like. The battles definitely seem like an afterthought, but for me, Pokemon Legends Arceus is by far the best Pokemon game we've gotten in probably the past 10 years, at least since X and Y, Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, that generation 6. Pokemon Legends Arceus tops everything in between for me, and it's not even close. With that said, we're starting off very strong, and I do think this year started very strong. That's going in S tier. Pokemon's my favorite franchise, and the fact that we got a game that rejuvenating is so nice. So that's going top of S, and I will order these, by the way, in between ranks. Next up, we had, well, actually it was Triangle Strategy, but I did not play that, so I will leave that off here. But next up, we have Kirby and the Forgotten Land. I, for years, have really not considered myself a Kirby fan. I'll be completely honest, but I've recently, well, with the 3DS hype earlier this year, I played for the first time Triple Deluxe and Planet Robobot. I liked Kirby's Epic Yarn as a kid, and I did not like Star Allies. The spin-offs are always cute. I like Rainbow Curse, and I liked, well, Epic Yarn, I guess, is kind of a spin-off. But Forgotten Land I was excited for because this is Kirby's first truly 3D game, and I like to compare this game to 3D World. 3D World is a fantastic Mario game, but it doesn't really feel like that jump that people like from 64 to Sunshine to Galaxy to Odyssey. Kirby Forgotten Land is freaking awesome. This is easily my favorite Kirby game. I think it's a better game in most aspects than 3D World, although 3D World maybe has tighter level design, more memorable level design. But the bosses in Forgotten Land, the music, just the way the game is played. I played it in co-op. I do wish there was some more stuff to do in it. The Coliseum was a little disappointing. You know, you do a couple Coliseum Cups, and that's basically it. I 100% of the game, upgrading all the abilities, having that in a Kirby game, a hub where you go back and upgrade your abilities using materials, was really refreshing. And I just like this game setting, going to what is essentially America, I guess, or Earth anyway. Just really cool setting, and Mouthful mode is a cool addition. I really liked Kirby and the Forgotten Land. I'm glad it won Family Game of the Year at the Game Awards because I do think this is also an S tier game. I genuinely, I know I'm starting off like crazy, but that's how good you might be wondering, oh, what's he gonna say in this video? This is what I'm gonna say. 2022, in my opinion, is the Switch's strongest year. It might not have as many games as 2017, for example, but it has exclusively new games, and a lot of them, and we'll get to a couple more, are S tier. I think this year for the Switch is going to be remembered as its strongest year when you look back at Kirby and at Pokemon and a couple of these others. So I can think of already 2 more S tier games that are going on this, and that's crazy. That is crazy. But there are some stinkers. There definitely are some stinkers. Starting with Nintendo Switch Sports. This is one of my most played games this year because I have FOMO and I don't want to miss any of the cosmetics. They have this weekly system where every week they add new cosmetics, and if you don't get them within 3 weeks, they are gone forever, or at least until the next cycle. I'm assuming they'll do another cycle eventually next year where you can get cosmetics you missed. This game is better than Wii Sports in pretty much every way. When this game came out, everybody was saying like, oh, it's bad, it's worse than Wii Sports. It's not. Maybe not as good as Wii Sports Resort. I personally like it more than that, just because, I don't know, I didn't really grow up with Wii Sports Resort. I played Wii Sports because it came with my Wii in 2007, and then I didn't get Wii Sports Resort until years later. So maybe I just missed out on that nostalgia factor. A big point of contention with this game was the lack of Miis, or at least the lack of Miis being the focus, and the lack of Woohoo Island. I'll agree, it definitely strips away some of the personality of Wii Sports, but at the same time, the only reason we feel like Wii Sports has personality is because we grew up with it. There's nothing more inherently good about Woohoo Island than Spacco Square. At least in my opinion. I don't think they're that different. They're basically the same thing. This is just a new coat of paint. And honestly, the Sportsmates, the new avatars, I like more than Miis. I like giving this game its own identity. Moving away from Miis, I do think is a good idea. So Nintendo Switch Sports, and I didn't even talk about the terms of content. The content delivery in terms of cosmetics, awful. Every 3 weeks you have to do it. Terrible. Not good. This game launched very bare bones. Golf just came out after like 10 months. If you like bowling, and the football, soccer is definitely the highlight, those are the 2 main sports you're going to be playing. And those are very fun. Bowling is the best it's ever been, and the soccer is also very fun. Everything else is kind of I haven't played enough golf yet to fully determine how I feel about that. But overall, I enjoy this game. I enjoy pulling back to it every week, although it is out of FOMO. I would not be playing it if not for their cosmetic system. So for me, just because of how much time I've spent with it, I would probably put it in B, but it's realistically more like a C tier game, but I'm going to put it in B because I have put a lot of time with it, and I can't, that's not for nothing. You know, I do enjoy it at some fundamental level enough to keep coming back because bowling is very fun. It's kind of mindless. I can do it while watching TV or something, you know, just swinging my right hand with the Joy-Con and bowling, getting some cosmetics, and that's just been a nice constant grind this year for me. Next up, we have Mario Strikers Battle League. This is a game I did not play a ton of. I probably put like maybe, I don't know, 5 hours into because I couldn't bear it. Listen, I respect Mario Strikers for what it is. I don't like it. This game is too technical. It's a freaking Mario sports game, and they're expecting me to learn all these. It's not fun. The game isn't fun, and it launched more bare bones than most Nintendo games. Granted, Switch Sports, I would say it's probably about equally bare bones, but Mario Strikers Battle League, it's all style and no substance. I think that's the best way to put it. Next Level Games is fantastic at creating their own unique art styles and animating these characters, but this is easily the worst Mario sports game on the console. I think this is probably one of the worst games Nintendo's released in the past generation of console, the Switch era. I think this is probably one of the worst games they released. It's just way too bare bones, and I know I was saying that with Switch Sports, but there's not much to it. The gameplay is like complex, but not in a good way. It kind of just adds this barrier to entry that like you can't pick up and play this game really. And for me, that's enough to put me off. Also, there was no single player content. There was like the cups or whatever, and then you just play online, and that's it. And they've been doing the terrible free updates that they do with other Mario sports games. But Tennis Aces and Golf Super Rush were actually good games. This is just not a good video game. So that is definitely, and spoiler alert, that is definitely the weakest link in 2022 for me, are these 2 games. Continuing in release order, we have Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. I like this game more than Three Houses. If you've been following me for a long time, you know I don't really like Three Houses that much. I think Three Houses is a game troubled by, I don't know how to put it. I don't know if they tried to do too much with the three different paths and all the characters. The game looks awful. Three Houses, that is. Three Hopes feels like what Three Houses should have been. The story is, I don't want to say more concise, but I thought it was more interesting. And just the way Fire Emblem as a Warriors game makes so much sense. I love Echoes. Echoes is my favorite 3DS game. So I like strategy. I like strategy games, but Three Houses, you know, you have Edelgard doing a huge speech about the war coming, and then you go play that in a Musou level. It works so well. The new characters introduced, having the DLC characters intertwined in the story, having no DLC. I cannot believe this game didn't get DLC. This game was awesome. I did a full review of it. It's been a long time since I played it, but in terms of Warriors games, I do think this is the best Warriors game, hands down. And for me, that is an A-rank game. It's my favorite Fire Emblem game on the Switch. I'll say that. Not that that's saying much, because I think Three Houses is kind of a stinky poo-poo game. So, pretty good so far. 2 S's, an A, and some stinkers down here. Then we have another S tier. Xenoblade Chronicles 3. This is my personal game of the year, so let's move that up. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is pretty much everything I wanted and more out of a sequel to my favorite game of all time, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Well, I don't know if it's my favorite game of all time. Favorite Switch game, let's say that. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 absolutely blew me away when I played it back in 2018. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 delivered as a sequel in pretty much every aspect. The combat is faster, snappier, and more fun. The characters, I think, are still a weaker part of this game's story compared to 2, for example. And the story overall, especially the villains. It is unfortunate as a JRPG for this to be my biggest gripe with the game, but my biggest gripe is the story and characters. It took about to the halfway point for me to really connect to Noah and his crew and Mio and her crew, that shouldn't happen in an 80-hour JRPG. It should not take 5 chapters for that to happen. But once you hit that point, and this is the meme, like, oh, it takes 50 hours to get good, just wait, bro. That is the meme, right? It should not take that long, so that is obviously a fault against it. But for me, and not to say I didn't have any connection at all to begin with, it just took a while for me to be as connected to these characters as I was to the characters in 2. I do think it has better characters than 1 also, though. And then the antagonists are certainly a down point for this game. I think both 1 and 2 have better villains than this game, although they're still very interesting. And I'm excited to see what the DLC is. The soundtrack is one of the best soundtracks in a video game I've heard, I have to say. The visuals, despite being held back by the Switch at this point, the game looks beautiful. The world of Ionios is beautiful. Beautiful game. Cannot recommend it enough. It does take a while to really get you hooked, but once you're hooked, oh my goodness, this game, especially that combat. I want to really drive home how good the combat is. The combat in Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and maybe it's because I already knew 2's combat, so it was easier for me to transition to Xenoblade Chronicles 3, but it's so easy to pick up and learn and master doing the chain attacks. I don't think the chain attacks are as satisfying as 2, because in 2 you had those orbs and you put them on there and then you crack them and it was very fun. But the heroes and all, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, ranted about it long enough. Absolutely phenomenal game. Game of the year for me personally, and a game I am in love with. Moving on, I realize this is a crazy list. People are going to be clicking on this video and being like, oh, this dude's way too positive. Any other year would not look like this, but I really want to stress how good of a year I think 2022 was for Nintendo. Splatoon 3. I think maybe with time and like more separation from it, I had a really good time with this game. For me, I'm going to put it in S tier, above Kirby. And here's why. It is the best Splatoon game, and then some. I was if you followed my videos back in the summer, I was very negative on this game leading up to release. I thought they were doing a terrible job of marketing it, which they did. They did an absolutely abysmal job marketing this game. And I just wasn't excited because Splatoon 2 was already on the Switch, and I already had stopped playing that game. Splatoon 2 has something funky with it, man. I don't know what it is. I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's something wrong with that game. I love Splatoon 1 on the Wii U. Then Splatoon 2 I enjoyed, but I never really got that into. Splatoon 3 finally brought me back. I don't know if it was just a quick turnaround with Splatoon 2 that made me not as excited. Of course, there was 5 years between Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3. But coming back to Splatoon this year has been an absolute joy playing with friends. I do wish there was a new mode. That would be nice. And I do think the content update strategy for this game, they've completely dropped the ball on. Updating every 3 months is not the way, Nintendo. For a game like this. For your Mario sports games that you want to feed content, okay, you can do whatever you want. I don't really care. But having an update every 3 months in Splatoon is not good. Big Run was a huge disappointment. And this will be a game that, in my opinion, evolves on over time as they add new content. But the new maps are fantastic, although there are a few of them. The story mode has been fantastic. Table Turf Battle is a cool, interesting addition. And just like the way the systems work, how they have the weapon tickets now, how you have the shell machine, Salmon as good as ever. This game it's a top tier Nintendo game. It has that Nintendo EAD or EPD sauce, you know. Also looks beautiful. No one really talks about this, but this game looks really good for a Switch game. Like, I can't really fathom it looking better unless they added like ray tracing or something, right? Like, this game looks damn good, plays damn smooth. I think it's lock 60. I don't know. Except for when you load into the lobby screen. That's the only time I ever noticed a dip. And while the game did have the communication errors at launch, I have not had any issues with it recently. So Splatoon 3 is an absolute blast and one of my favorite games of the year. Although, as you can see, this is why I'm not doing a game of the year list, because it would have just been Nintendo games, because I think Nintendo had a really good year. Now, I just realized I actually skipped a couple games because I was so excited to talk about Xenoblade and Splatoon. I skipped Live Alive. I did a review of this game back when I beat it. It took me a little bit. I think I actually beat it after Xenoblade because I got Xenoblade early. Live Alive is good, but it's not that good. I'm going to put it here. It's better than Switch Sports. And maybe I should put Switch Sports down a peg. Maybe I'll do that. That's fine. Live Alive is a good game, but it's a disappointing game. When they announced this remake in the February Nintendo Direct, I was ecstatic. I had never heard of Live Alive. I was just like, oh, another HD 2D game. Looks really cool. It looks like what I wanted Octopath to be, in that it was 8 distinct storylines that all come together in the end. And while, yes, they do kind of come together in the end, they don't really intertwine the way I wanted. Each story is like an hour to an hour and a half, and that's just not enough time to really get accustomed or used to, or, you know, attached to any characters in this game. And that is the main reason I play JRPGs, is for the story and the connection to the characters. So while I still enjoyed the characters in the story, and overall it was a good experience, that's a huge bummer. The gameplay is also not good. I cannot imagine anybody looking me straight in the eye and telling me that Live Alive has good combat. It's like this weird mix of real-time tactical. I guess it's turn-based tactical, but it doesn't work. Oftentimes, you can just completely cheese any enemy in the game, and it's not balanced. I mean, you can grind, but you don't need to grind because the combat is so freaking stupid. But HD 2D is obviously, that gives it a huge boost. Also, the writing is really good. The characters are cool. I can't remember any names off the top of the head. I do love the Ooga Booga chapter. That is a top tier chapter in Live Alive. But overall, pretty good game. Certainly not, I don't think, a JRPG or an RPG Game of the Year nominee. I don't think this game deserves that in any capacity. But a good game nonetheless. And I did enjoy it. I guess I had my expectations too high. It is an SNES game, so maybe I was just too optimistic for this game. We also have Kirby's Dream Buffet. This was the only eShop game released by Nintendo this year. It's fine. It's obviously lacking in content. I don't think it should be $20, $25, however much it costs. I think it's overpriced. It should have been free with Switch Online as another way to bolster that service. The online's horrible, though. And I know I kind of gave Splatoon a pass, and they have fixed it. I haven't played Kirby in a few months. Maybe they fixed it by now. I'm not optimistic about that. This game is unplayable, pretty much, for me. Every time I played it, it was just completely laggy. But it's a fun game, and it's a fun concept to have a Kirby kind of racing game where you're going against your friends, and then you have like these other stages where it's more like a battle. It's a fun concept, and I certainly think I would certainly play it over Mario Strikers Battle League, but it's not that good. I wish there was more to it. I wish it wasn't a paid game. I think that's the biggest fault here, honestly, which isn't a fault of the game itself, I guess. But when you're offering a paid game, basically to promote your online service, it needs to work. And this game does not work hardly ever. But when it does work, it is pretty fun. And I just wish there was more content. All the unlockable cosmetics are cool, though. All right, you thought 4 wasn't enough? Bayonetta 3 is an absolutely god-tier game. I did not realize there is this agenda online against this game where people are saying it's not a good game, the story's bad. I don't know what the hell these people are talking about. I've seen people say the performance is bad. I do not have a single issue with this game in terms of its performance, in terms of its graphics, in terms of its story. This is the most fun I've ever had playing like an action game like this, like a Devil May Cry, Astral Chain kind of game. And I love Astral Chain. I don't even like Bayonetta 1 and 2 that much. They're good games. I don't have any strong feelings toward them, though. I think they're like an 8 out of 10, right? Both of those games. Bayonetta 3 is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. This game is freaking awesome. Viola is an awesome new character. I think it has the best story. I know people don't like the ending, but for me, it had a really interesting ending. Maybe you don't like what happened with Bayonetta and the implications there, but for me, that was super interesting. I don't know what it is with this game and its community online. People saying it has such a bad ending. I think it had a super interesting plot. As someone who does not care about the first two games' plot, I think Bayonetta 1 and 2 have way, way worse stories. They're not interesting. Bayonetta 1, well, really both of them, they both have that crappy cinematic style of storytelling, and it's not good. This game has a budget. It looks beautiful on the Switch. It runs perfectly fine, at least in my experience, and the level systems and all these things. I did a full review of all these games, but Bayonetta 3, you can go check out that review. I love this game. I really do think it should have been a Game of the Year nominee over... I posted a tweet that kind of struck some nerves. I said the fact that Stray got nominated over Bayonetta 3 is asinine. It is. It absolutely is. Bayonetta 3 is a fantastic game, and I'm sad to see that even the Bayonetta fans don't seem to like it, because it's incredible. It's honestly incredible. So much though that in fact I'm actually gonna move it above Splatoon. Not above Pokemon, because I have a special soft spot for Pokemon, but above Splatoon. And that's my top 5 of the year. That would have been that video, top 5 Nintendo Switch games. And then Mario Sparks of Hope, I kind of talked about at the beginning. Like I said, I did not finish it, so I'm not going to rank it, but certainly better than Kingdom Battle in every way, and I loved Kingdom Battle. Just need to play more of it. It was starting to get a little bit repetitive, I will say. So I don't know. I need to go back to it. I'm excited for the DLC with Rayman. That's going to be fun. But here we have the final game on this list. And I know I got a line. I feel bad. Because I know I have a lot of Pokemon fans watching this video now. I know I got a lot of people subscribed because of my Pokemon Scarlet and Violet videos, and when I did my review, I was pretty positive. Now that I've had a month, and I might do another video just talking about this game specifically a month later, going in more detail, Scarlet and Violet are not good games. They're not good Pokemon games. They are only enjoyable at a very core level if you enjoy catching Pokemon. It's a bad game. It is a bad video game. It gets C from me just because, in fact, let's move Switchboard back up. It gets a C from me just because I like Pokemon, and I like the new Pokemon. I think this generation still, despite my issues with the game itself, has some of the best new designs for Pokemon of any generation. At least since Black and White, I think it has the best. So that is a huge plus in my book. But the actual game is fundamentally broken. I'm not even talking about necessarily like, oh, the frame rate dips, but the Pokemon pop-in is unacceptable. I am a shiny hunter. The way you shiny hunt in this game is exploiting the fact that the game can't load Pokemon. That's horrible. I don't care about glitches. The frame rate, you know what? It's obviously a negative, but I can get past that. But the simple way that Pokemon pop-in is completely unacceptable. It completely ruins the game for me. I'm glad people are enjoying it still. I have not played it in like 2 weeks. I don't care anymore. I burnt myself out on it, and I will admit, maybe I'll come back to it once the DLC comes out, and I'll feel happy about it again. But right now, Scarlet and Violet, I think the story is at best equal to Sword and Shield, which is already like the worst game in the series in terms of story. I think the characters are all incredibly boring with the exception of Arven. Arven is the only character that helps the story come together. And I think the balancing throughout the entire game, having it be open world and letting you go your own path, it doesn't freaking work. Legends Arceus works because it's not structured around gyms. And I think Game Freak is going to realize that. This is the lowest reviewed Pokemon game. I think Game Freak's going to learn that maybe they shouldn't make an open world Pokemon game. Maybe it should be open zone like Legends Arceus. Having it be open world doesn't work. Maybe I'll do a video title that, because that's good title bait. And I do believe this. I don't think Pokemon should be open world. Scarlet and Violet made me realize that it's not the move. You can do open zones like Monster Hunter, but having it be fully connected online, it doesn't work. The online multiplayer is disappointing because, not that I really knew what I wanted, there's just not much to do with it. I don't know. It was exciting on paper, and it does everything it promoted. I don't really know what I was expecting from that. I don't know. This game is just disappointing. I think if I wasn't already like a diehard Pokemon fan, it would be down here. But because I like the new Pokemon so much, and I like the core of Pokemon so much, it does get that low C. But it's an unacceptable video game, in my opinion. I genuinely, this game is not acceptable in its current state. And even from a design standpoint, I think they messed up. This game should not exist. So yeah, that is the full list of my favorite Nintendo Switch games this year, or every Nintendo Switch game ranked on Tier Maker. Once again, I'll link this down in the description if you want to make your own tier list. Tweet at me at Botox Media with your list. It was a fantastic year for the Nintendo Switch. I guess it kind of filled out more than I expected down on the lower end with Scarlet and Violet and Kirby and Battle League. But that S tier, these are 5 of my favorite Switch games of all time, let alone just this year. I think Xenoblade 3 is a top 3 for me, with Xenoblade 2. Legends Arceus, best Pokemon game in a long time. Bayonetta 3, an absolute masterclass in action games. Splatoon 3, probably the best multiplayer game Nintendo's ever made. And Kirby and the Forgotten Land is the best Kirby game, a series that's been around for over 30 years. So, even Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes, that was such a refreshing Warriors game. As someone who loves Warriors games, it's the best one. So, it has been an absolutely incredible year. I'm excited for what the future holds for Nintendo. And hopefully, just hopefully, 2023 can even hold a candle to 2022, because this has been Nintendo's best year and probably ever for me personally. Now, that's coming as someone who loves Pokemon and Xenoblade, so obviously my opinion's gonna be a little bit. This year was made for me, basically. This year was freaking made for me, and I admit that. A lot of people aren't gonna play Xenoblade. They're not gonna play Pokemon, and for that, I am sorry. I am sorry that you don't like good video games. So, with that said, thank you so much for watching this very long ranking video of Nintendo Switch's 2022, or my Game of the Year list, if you want to call it that. Until next time, folks, let me know what you think of all the Nintendo Switch games that released this year, or maybe just post your top 5. Post your top 5 video games, or even just Nintendo Switch games from 2022 down in the comments below. And like I said, make a tier list at me on Twitter with the image, or post it in the Discord, anything you like, and let me know what how you would rank these games. With that said, thank you so much for watching. Peace.